Welcome everybody to All About Articulation, where we do a deeper dive into the articulation of some of your favorite action figures while glossing over things like sculpt, paint apps, accessories, character history, because I suck at that, and there are already so many great reviews on YouTube who do that already, and I don't want to waste your time. So today we're going to look at the Marvel Legends 80th Anniversary Hulk and Wolverine First Appearance 2-pack. And I'm not gonna lie to you, right off the bat, this review is gonna be 99% Hulk, because this Wolverine, the First Appearance Wolverine, is just a basic repaint of these two guys in the back here. If you want to know his articulation, just YouTube search the review videos on the yellow tiger stripe Wolverine from the Apocalypse wave and the Wolverine from the Juggernaut wave, although this is the vintage re-release, but it's the same exact figure. I mean, down to basically every joint, the claws, the articulation is exactly the same. The only difference is obviously a different head, and the shoulder pads are a little bit slimmer, to the point where these things, they come down and they have a habit of staying down, and it ends up looking like bra straps. So I call them, bra strap Wolverine. But if you do want to look at a review on him, it's really no point me re-reviewing this. Just look up the reviews of these two guys in the back, and you can call it a day. What I do want to get to, spend most of the bulk of my time here today, is talking about this guy, and I think most of you guys watching this video came here to hear about him anyway. So, quick thoughts off the bat. I'm a huge Hulk fan. I, like most other people, saw the reviews, the previews, and the released photographs, and just went bananas, like everybody, just wanted to get my hands on this figure. I pre-ordered him on Hasbro, and then I got word that there was a local shop near my home that had them in, and so I immediately canceled my pre-order, ran down to the store, picked them up for $15 more. It was $75, and after tax, it's almost close to $80. Meanwhile, the pre-order was only $60 plus tax and shipping. Might have been maybe, who knows, $70. So I paid $15 more than I would have, all because I couldn't wait an extra 2 weeks. I couldn't wait till August. I said, forget this. I'm going down. I'm picking them up right now, and that's what I did. What do I think, though? I'm gonna be honest. It's a little bit of a disappointment, and that's no fault of the figure. That's no fault of Hasbro. That's nobody's fault, but really my own. When I saw those advanced, preview pictures, like everybody else, I freaked out, and I said, I gotta get this guy. And he's a good figure. I'm not knocking him. He's a good figure, if not a great figure. But the expectations from what I had, and I think from what a lot of people had, it was just too high. For me anyway, I'll speak for myself. My expectations were so high that I don't think anything would have met what I was expecting. So you can take that into consideration. But having said that, there are reasons why he is a disappointment in some ways. Let me just say this off the bat. I don't regret buying him. I'm not going to return him. I'm not selling him. I'm keeping this guy. He is a good figure, for sure. But as we will get into it in a little bit, you'll see why some aspects of the figure were a little bit of a disappointment. So, okay, right off the bat, let's just take a quick height measurement. He is, I'm going to say, just a shade over 8.5. What do you think? Just a shade over 8.5, right? If you look at the top of his hair right there, it's just a tip over 8.5. All right. His wingspan. Now, of course, as you can already see, there's one of the big issues where you bring his arms all the way up. He doesn't go straight. He doesn't hit a flat, perpendicular articulation. Because if you look up here on the shoulders, the shoulder muscle, it juts out a little bit right there. light down. There you go. If for whatever reason they decide to make that curve out a little bit instead of go in, it curves out, and that hits the deltoid there, and it prevents it from going all the way up. So this is as far up as he can go. This is his hot tub pose, as I like to call it. So that's another issue. His wingspan, well, you can't really take a wingspan because it's bent, so all right, forget that. But if you really must know, from knuckle to knuckle, it's about 10 and a half, all right? We're gonna go up, down, from head to toe. His head can go far that down, as you can see. And it can't go too far up. That's about it. That's as far as it goes. And I'll show you, bring it in closer to show you why. If you pop the head off, the joint is a double-sided peg joint with a lower bolt deep in the neck and the top bolt up here, which attaches to the head. But if you look right there, if there was only a little bit carved out on the back of the neck, you could then allow this peg joint to go backwards more, which would then allow the head to sort of look up, which would be better, obviously. Now, does it matter, you ask, that Hulk can't look all the way up? I mean, if he sort of does that, right? He can lean back a little bit, he can look up, right? So what's so bad about that? Well, excuse me, two reasons. Two types of characters need head-up articulation. One are flight characters, and one are rage, well, I call rage characters. Flight characters meaning Superman, Iron Man. Obviously, you know, I'll use Wolverine as an example. Obviously, if you're flying, right, you need the head to look up to get that nice flight pose, right? But rage characters need to have head-up articulation as well. Wolverine I consider a rage character. Hulk is another rage character. Now, what does that mean? It means that they're kind of angry, right? They got a lot of rage. And you might be prone to posing them in a hunkered over, anger, rage type of position. Like, for example, this is a very typical Wolverine pose, right? But you wouldn't necessarily expect Cyclops to be in this pose, or, I don't know, Gambit, or maybe not even Spider-Man, really. You know, Venom you would, but not others. So for rage characters, they would need to hunker over a little bit, right? Utilize that ab crunch. And then the head would have to look up to get that intimidating sort of hunkered over, like I'm ready to attack, I'm ready to lunge into my enemy pose. And that's where the neck articulation is so important, especially the head looking up. In order to get that thing, you gotta get that articulation pose. You gotta get the head up and then crunch down. Well, Hulk has good crunch down, but then he can't go up. So if I wanted to give Hulk into a rage pose, like what I just did for Wolverine, it's a little, you know, down, right? It would be great if he could do that. So that, how cool would that be? There you go. So you could do it, but it'd be a cheat. So what I'm gonna do, I think, is I'm gonna Dremel a little bit out from the top of the neck there and push to allow the peg to push it back. I didn't want to do it before I did this review because I wanted you guys to see just exactly what Hulk is like right out of the box. And he does not have good neck and head up articulation. All right, that's about as far up as he goes. If I put him into a vanilla pose, and he does get into a vanilla pose, by the way, this is really good. Arms straight, elbows straight down against his sides. He could, you know, if you cheat a little bit, he could touch his thighs. So it's very straight, very vanilla, like in-game Bath Hulk in the back. You can see him do that. But however, not SH Figure Arts Infinity War Hulk. See, he cannot do that vanilla pose. He's just stuck in that sort of, you know, hands out movement. Don't know if that bothers anybody. It kind of bothers me, but I could live with that. Love that Hulk. So he's a big boy. We'll get into size comparisons a little bit later, so you'll see how he stacks up against some of the other Hulks. But we did do the measurements already, so we're gonna move down. So we did the neck, we did the arms. Oh, well, let's stick to the arms. So yeah, like I said, shoulders, that's about it. He does have the butterfly joint. And here's another thing about the butterfly joint. So when we all saw the advanced pictures, we noticed that there was a butterfly joint, and we all said, whoa, a Hulk, a big, large, bath-sized Hulk with butterfly joints? That's insane. And they're good. However, that is as far back as it goes, which is great. Look at that. Like, he's stretching his back. You know, he's like going into a flight. He's jumping into the enemy, jumping into battle. That's a great pose, all right? Got a lot of posing options. But as you can see, if you look at him straight on, the butterfly, there's no front butterfly maneuverability. It's really just a half butterfly joint. I mean, it's a full butterfly joint, obviously, but the forward motion is prevented from a lack of a cutout. So he can't bring his arms, utilize the butterfly joint and bring his arms forward. Again, I'm going to use Wolverine as an example. He can go back, see? You go back, utilizing the back butterfly joint. It's great. See that? But if you go forward, that's as far as he goes forward. As opposed to Wolverine, he can go all the way forward with his bra straps hanging down. Like he had a hard day at the job. He can go all the way forward. See that? So that's one thing Hulk can't do. Another bummer about this figure that I had not anticipated was a very limited head neck up articulation that, of course, doesn't let you do the hunkered over, staring straight ahead rage pose. And now, as you can see, there's no front butterfly articulation, so he can't get his arms any closer when he's holding his arms straight out in front of him. That's another bummer. Now, why would Hulk need that? Well, I guess he doesn't, but they've done it before, and that's pretty cool. And when you can do that, it just makes the figure that much more fun to pose. As you can see, the SH figure-outs on the left here, and the Marvel Legends 80th anniversary on the right. All right. So he only has a single jointed elbow, as opposed to a double jointed on the Build-A-Figure, Endgame Build-A-Figure. You see in the back, I did a review on him. Check out my other video. It's all there. He's got the double joint. That's as far as he can go. He can get a really nice bend. Hulk is not even at 90. If you look straight up, it's if that's the y-axis, he's about, I would say, 95, 100 degrees, not even 90. So, what are you gonna do? But oddly enough, there's a bicep swivel, but there's also an elbow swivel. So you kind of get, you get multiple swivel options from each of his arms. It doesn't really come into play for me. I mean, I didn't really need that swivel. If anything, I just keep the elbow bend right where it should be, right against the bicep, which is anatomically correct. I don't really do a lot of this, and then I do a lot of that. It just looks weird, first of all, and it's not, like I said, anatomically correct. So, thanks Hasbro for the elbow swivel, but it's really not necessary. You could have just given us another joint to make it a double jointed elbow. All right, but what are you gonna do? So those are the arms. He does come with his open hands, which I have up here. The articulation between the closed fists and the open hands are, the same. So we don't really need to touch that. His midsection, okay. Another thing to point out. So he has the ball joint inside, which allow him to crunch forward, and we've seen a lot of, as opposed to, say, here's the Juggernaut Build-A-Figure from a couple years ago. He's got the ab crunch joint as opposed to the ball joint. He's got the, what do you call this, like the hinge, ab hinge. So it works the same. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's not like you get more range out of this than that. Just to let you know that you get the ball joint. But The advantage of having a ball joint, as I will show you with Endgame Hulk, is that you get the more robust and more, I guess, you can get more dynamic range of motion. You can have him tilt this way, you can have him, of course, crunch forward, extend his back, go this way, go that way. You know, you get a lot more kind of natural, organic, fluid sort of poses. However, on the 80th anniversary Hulk, he can't do that. It's locked in. I mean, you get a little swivel, but I don't even think that's by design or intention, because it's so hard to, it's so hard to even bend him. He can really just go back and forward, extend, back extension, forward crunch. That's it. And he does have a waist twist here, so I guess that's good. So his ab crunch is leaves also a little bit to be desired. Forward kick, just that's it. Can't really get much further than that. As opposed to, you know, I don't know, let's say Infinity War Hulk, you can get a little bit higher, you know. Again, Hulk is not a very flexible martial artist, so you don't really need that much, but I was expecting a little bit better than that, right? And he has almost virtually zero back kick. So his split, side splits, he can go down that much. Let's articulate those ankles. He can go down that much, which is pretty good. But if the front split, forget about it. He can barely go, he can barely kick up, and he can barely kick back. So it's more like looks like he's taking a walk than really attempting a split. It's like the cover of Abbey Road. All right. So yeah, there is the upper thigh twist, double jointed knee that bends a little bit. Bends pretty well. It's about, I would say 60 degrees. You know, certainly not 45. And he's got the ankle pivot, and the ankle hinge, and he could do the ballerina. Dance, then do the tippy toe dance. There's always that. And yeah, you know. So I mean, there's pivot, so that's good. So all in all, I mean, it's not a bad figure, and this is his shirt. That's very, very soft. I was expecting this to be like a very hard plastic, but it's very soft. They should make the figure's hairs out of this material, because it's so soft and it would not hinder articulation in any way, shape, or form. And then you can get Thor to finally look up once in a while. But anyway, so this is it, man. You know, is he a bad figure? No, of course not. It's a good figure. It's a very, very good figure, but it just does fall short in a lot of ways from what I was expecting, and that I will concede is no one's fault but my own. I just had such high expectations for him, to the point where just maybe a month or two after they announced this figure, they also are releasing a variant of this figure exclusively at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. It's basically the same figure, but with a different head and no changeable hands, just one closed fist and one open hand, and he comes like a metal pipe accessory. And no shirt, of course. But basically, it's the same figure, maybe slightly different paint, but just a different head. And I saw that, and I said, you know what? F this. I'm getting that. I'm getting both. I don't care, and I'll pay extra. Some people are already selling that San Diego Comic-Con variant on eBay for $70. And the psychopath that I am, I actually considered buying it. Thank God I ran out first and got this guy. So I figured, you know what? Before I commit to anything on eBay, let me just at least play around with this guy. And it was to the point where I said, you know what? Maybe I don't want the San Diego Comic-Con variant. This figure, as much as I do like him, it did kind of talk me out of buying the San Diego Comic-Con, the SDCC variant now. So I guess that's not a glowing review. But maybe if I tool around with him a little bit, maybe if I fix his neck articulation, if I do that dremeling, I'll end up, you know, appreciating him more. But the lack of the splits, and also, like I always say, the articulation that I'm looking for, it's not just an objective scale. I grade every figure's articulation based on character. It's contextual articulation. I don't need my Hulk to have Spider-Man level articulation. I don't need my Juggernaut to have Wolverine level articulation. They're not the same characters, you know what I mean? And they don't do the same things. But for Hulk, especially when I've seen what Hulk figures can do in terms of articulation, in terms of the range of movement, in terms of the different poses that they can get into, then this Hulk should have no excuse. He should be just as articulable as some figures from the same basic manufacturer, really. This is also a Marvel Legend character, you know? And he's just as tall. I mean, granted, he's not as big, but he can do it. You got the double jointed elbow here. Only single here. Look at that. Got the really good hip articulation. And not so good hip articulation here. So, in a lot of ways, yeah, you know, yeah, man. People were saying that this might be the definitive 6-inch scale Hulk, and I'm afraid to say I still think it's this guy. Unless you want to say he's the most definitive 1/12 6-inch scale comic book Hulk. But then again, in the last couple of years, we haven't even had any comic book Hulk releases, right? When was the last time they released a comic book Hulk? I don't even remember. So within the last 3, 4, maybe even 5 years, this is the only comic Hulk we got from Hasbro, and from any really company, from any manufacturer. But is it the definitive 6-inch scale 1/12 Hulk figure? I still say it's this guy, man. I still say Figure Arts, Infinity War. You still got the crown. And of course, by the way, this is not the head. This is the Mezco Gladiator Hulk head. I just slapped that on here because I just like the way it looked better. But it's, you know, it's pretty similar. I just like the way that looked. Anyway, doesn't really mess with the articulation. Yeah, so there you go. I don't know what to tell you. Buy the figure. But if you're on the fence, you may want to hold out. There's my 2 cents.